Hey guys, and welcome to another class discussion here with PantheonPlus. My name is Minus, and above me up there we have Hayah. Hello, Hayah.
Ew.
Today we're going to be talking about the Summoner class as we are winding down on the last few class videos that we're going to do. And this is a class that is going to be the final pure magical range DPS class. We're going to jump into Ranger after this, then get into the melee. So we've seen the Wizard last week, and this week we're going to see how the Summoner compares. Now, we're going to give everybody a warning. The Summoner has quite a few abilities, so this one might go a tiny bit longer than our standard, and that's without any additional commentary from me, which we're all well known can cause a lot of delays in the video. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. So first of all, the available races for the Summoner are Darkmere, Elf, Human, and Gnome. Anything you see with that you would change?
Halfling should have it.
Okay.
I think Halfling should have everything, though. So,
Like a human?
yeah. I play a Halfling monk. Come on.
All right. Well, I'm okay with it. Those seem to be the classes that possess the most magical attributes in this game, so I'm okay with it. 4 is fine. I think when we get into 2 and 3, we have a little bit of concern that if people don't like the race, it could scare a class from being played. So I think you have enough variation here, and with Darkmere and Elves being so popular as well as humans, I think you won't see a shortage of summoners. So they are a magical DPS utility class, and they use mana, and then basically they classify another combat resource, their pet control, which is what they refer to Archamental. So you'll be able to have an Archamental out at all times, and then they have different abilities. And we're not going to jump into a lot of discussion around that because that's going to be the meat and potatoes of talking about the class abilities today are really going to be pretty much all that, and then some of what the Summoner itself can do. So scrolling down here, looking at the available armor, cloth.
Figures, right?
Yeah, I didn't think any different. One-handed weapons, essentially blunt and piercing, two-handed staves, and certain shields. Again, I like that they can't use edged. That's cool that's kind of a wizard-only thing.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. It's weird. I don't know even when that started in MMOs, but I just associate a wizard with having a sword. So it's cool that this game kind of keeps that going. Okay, so what we're going to do here, each section that we talk about is going to be one of the 4 elementals. So we're going to go through all 4 of the elementals here, and then we're actually going to jump into base pet abilities that the Summoner will cast, and then into featured abilities. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and go through the full ability set of an elemental, and then we'll stop and we'll kind of break it down and talk about what we think about it and add our commentary. Does that sound good?
Sounds perfect.
Okay, so the first one is the Water Archamental, which is Undine?
Undine, yeah.
Undine.
I don't know.
Udin. The featured abilities are, first of all, passively, it is immune to poison and disease. Ever-flowing, passively, it is a high rate of health regen, so this pet will regen health on its own. Water Lash, it is a pet-activated ability. It's basically a damage and heal. So what's interesting here is if you read what this says, this ties into some questions about the Summoner that we don't know. But it says a lashing whip of water damages your enemy and heals you or another active pet for a small amount.
Multiple pets.
Yeah, so that paints a picture that you may be able to have multiple pets out. So and we'll get into more abilities. We may have an understanding of that, maybe an epic ability, something like that. Healing Jet Stream. So you have to activate this. This is a Summoner activated ability. So 2 pets work together. 2 pets, the wind and water pet will work together to channel a healing jet stream. This ability heals the Zephyr and increases its attack speed. So basically the water pet is going to help the wind pet be stronger. Again, multi-pet, which is something a little different than I think most people are used to seeing. Protective Clouding, Summoner activated, requires an active Fury, which is your fire pet we'll get into, and they work together to channel a Protective Clouding. Essentially what that does, it heals the Fury and makes it harder to hit. So this water pet is already kind of painting this picture of being a utility for your other pets.
For your other pets, yeah.
So very different. I don't think I've seen much like that. Crystalline mending. So this is with Titan. That is your Earth. This one gives him restorative waters that heal the Titan and absorb incoming damage. So that paints a really interesting picture, which we'll jump into. I don't want to get ahead. We'll do our last one here. Crystalline Spear, pet activated, impales your target with a spear of ice, dealing cold and physical damage, and has a chance to slow them. Okay, so a lot to digest there. Hayah, what's the first thing that kind of stands out to you when we just are looking at the water elemental, knowing it's playing with others?
I just want to see an army of pets all the time. Let's go.
Like Witch Doctor and Diablo?
Yeah. So I think that's really cool how you have a support pet. It's cool.
Yeah, managing multiple pets is pretty neat. You wonder what that playstyle is going to look like, and if you're going to have multiple pet bars popping up on the screen. So here's what's interesting to me here. This game is going to be harder to solo, and I think anybody that's saying that it's group only, that's not right. You'll be able to solo. You'll be able to solo probably mobs that are lower than you, that probably don't grant great experience, but those moments you're soloing, you'll probably be able to just slowly gain experience and slowly grind. You're going to probably have more of a benefit in a group. So when you're talking about, without looking ahead at all, and you're talking about having a summoner with a water pet out, with an earth pet, who can now absorb more incoming damage, I'm really curious to what that says for this being so far a top solo class. I don't think we've seen a lot of classes that when you look at it, you say this class can really solo, like I'm seeing in just the first pet.
Exactly. Yeah, I completely agree.
So let's go ahead and jump into the next pet, because I'm sure we'll wrap up all the pets once we get through them. So the next one is the wind pet, which is Zephyr. Whistling winds, so he's able to double attack and dual wield. That's interesting. Somebody I was talking to recently was watching streams trying to see if warriors were double attacking, and they were not. And that was something that they were really upset about. So while the warrior may not have been double attacking in that video, it is in the game. If this pet does it, it means that the mechanic's there. And that means that you may see it in other classes or with items. So that's pretty interesting. So double attack and dual wielding. Wind woven, it's passive. Being bound to the wind element, your Zephyr has a higher chance to dodge, and it's further enhanced by the quickness and power. So buffs on the pet and stuff. Windblade, a devastating attack from close range. They must be behind your target. Gale Step. Yeah, like a rogue pet, yes. Instantly relocate your Zephyr to your the back of a target, so you can just almost shadow step them there. Updraft, command your Zephyr to envelop you in wind, increasing your movement speed. So a pet that gives you a speed buff. That's really, really cool. Wind Lance, a piercing blast of wind that deals nature damage from a distance. The further that they are away, the more damage this will deal. So that's interesting. They could be out back and hit it with this Zephyr. You can teleport them in for the shot behind the back. That's a nice little combo. Anything stand out to you? You kind of said it's like a rogue pet.
Mm-hmm. It's cool. I like how you have the ranged ability too. So on a pull, you can actually start dealing damage with your pet before it's in camp.
And it's nice if you're kiting.
Also true.
So let's get into the fire elemental here, which is called Fury. So Fury is covered in arcane flames, which is giving it an aura that will damage enemies that inflict any damage to your Fury. So like a damage shown on it base, which I'm just curious how much damage a pet will be able to take and how much aggro they'll be able to hold. So that's kind of interesting. Fire's Rage, lower your Fury's health. The lower it becomes, the more damage it deals. Cinder Blast, Molten Rock and Arcane Fire that deals damage to your enemy. Molten Spear, your Fury unleashes a shard of blazing mana that deals fire and magic damage. It's based on the power and energy. And Bear and Burned, which is a summoner activated ability. Your Fury releases a massive explosion of energy and flame, reducing its life by X% and dealing high fire damage to all enemies in a small radius. So it's a little AoE.
Activatable bomb pet. Yeah, that's cool.
Like sort of like Mage's Living Bomb and WoW. So there's not a lot to talk about with that pet. It's just a DPS pet. I'd rather kind of stop and chat a little bit here once we get through the fourth pet and the final pet here. So the final pet is Titan, which is your Earth. So first of all, its attacks can lower the enemy's armor class, which is cool. That's very cool for melee. Your Titan receives a bonus to its armor class. Mighty Slam. It slams the enemy with great force. Just basic damage. Shifting Stones. Your Titan loosens the ground under your enemy, snaring them in Shifting Rock. That's a root. It's not a slow. It's actually a root. And it's broken by damage, so standard root. Grapple. Your Titan lays hold of your enemy for X duration, forcing the enemy to attack the Titan. So there's your taunt, pet taunt, which is nice. And then Lasso of Vines. Your Titan hurls a boulder of twisting vines to the enemy and pulls it to its location. So that's pretty cool. So you can pull it in, taunt it, and control an enemy, which is pretty neat. So
yeah, move NPCs with your pet. That could be a strong ability.
That's pretty cool. It's actually not too bad at all. So when we look at these pets, I don't know. Let me open it to you first before I start ranting and raving. Looking at the pets as a sum here, what are your first thoughts? What are you thinking about the class just based on the pets so far?
Mostly, I want to know how you end up with multiple pets, because you never see, aside from in Diablo 2 or 3, the mass amounts of pets. You don't usually see that. So we know that there are synergies between different pets. I want to know what the rules are there, how that's going to work. That's my biggest. And then once we know that, then you can know how you're going to plan your battles by having 2 pets if you're allowed 2 or 4 or whatever it may be.
Yeah, so all the pets seem pretty useful, which is good. When you have 4 pets and you have to create different identities with them and you're using the elements, you have a water support pet, you have a sneaky damage,
Rogue, yep.
like wind elemental, which, if I had to say anything, I'd have to see where players go with the wind elemental and the fire elemental, right? So are they different enough that you'll need them both, or is one of those two going to win out? They're both DPS. They both have similar, I'll say similar, but they both have a melee and a range style ability. I guess the wind would have a little bit more ranged ability than the fire. And I just don't see the damage shield being that important for the fire one. I just can't imagine a fire pet is going to be tanking a lot.
I see that more as a flavor thing. Like if you punch fire, you're going to get burned still, right?
Yeah. And the Titan one, I mean, let's be honest. Anyone who's ever played a pet class, you love your tank pet. I mean, Voidwalker and WoW, the cat could do all that in Blade Soul. And even in EQ, the Earth Elemental could tank, right?
Yep, it casted a root instead of a taunt, but yeah.
Yeah, and it had a little more health. So I think it did. So a lot of games that I've seen, this type of a pet class, that Earth pet, is usually a great one. I don't know how much you'll use it in group play where your group is solid. It probably will be mostly for soloing, but that's a huge advantage when you look at a lot of classes right now and they don't have a lot of soloing capability, at least in this state where it could be pretty easy to do, where you could keep a pretty good pace of soloing with a summoner.
Yeah, they definitely have an up.
Yeah. So let's go into the pet abilities. So these are abilities that you can cast that feel like work for any of the pets. And this is probably going to give us a little bit of sense into the multi-pet, hopefully. So first of all, passive epic skill. This skill allows you to have Undine active permanently alongside your...
There you go. There it is.
See? And then there's people who have said, why don't you guys prep notes? And then there's other people in our comments like, please just do it naturally. It's more fun that way. It's definitely more fun this way. Gives me time to drink wine too.
The pure speculation and the goofballery is that's what I'm here for.
And then also like some of the stuff we think up, like, hey, that might be a good idea. Okay, so there you go. So it looks like you won't be so multi-pet as that you'll be able to have your water pet out with another one, which is still really cool. I really like that. Even 2 pets is massive. I mean, the only other 2 pet class was when you had 2 pets with a hunter and WoW that I can remember. So
the artifact gave you a pet. That's right.
Yeah, and that people loved it, right? That was huge. When they took that away, there was revolting. Archmental Command. Through the masteries of Archmental Control, you are able to summon all active Archmentals to your side. Instantaneously regardless of distance. So that just brings them all back to you. That's pretty nice, especially if one starts chasing something. Augment Augmental Quickening, so it's a buff. You can turn its quickness on up. So these are all buffs. Density. I almost said.
Hang on though, hang on. For
Yeah,
this
yeah.
quickening one, there's a parentheses where it's you can have a bunch of augmentations out on your pets, but the more of you have of them, the more your pet becomes unstable, and that'll destroy them.
Huh.
So a little risk with your buffs there.
That's interesting. So if you just super buff up one of your Archmentals, it just might explode.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's really cool for gear, right? So if you get gear that, like, wearing this sword or staff
Stabilizes your
yeah, that's a pretty neat. Or maybe it's a spell you have to keep on as a buff or something like that in the future. It'd be cool. I instantly, so this is density, and I almost said destiny, and it immediately made me think of Back to the Future. You are my density. So they're all buffs, and these buffs are essentially the different attributes which affect each one. If you look on the page underneath the name of each elemental, it lists kind of like what abilities are important to it. So these are just straight buffs that will play within the Summoner's Toolkit. You can summon weaponry. So you're able to summon weaponry that's specifically designed for your Archmentals to use in combat. So, the wind one's a dual wielder, so you can summon 2 weapons for it. Here you go. And I think that was in that was an EverQuest thing. I remember being able to summon weapons.
Absolutely. You could also summon other gear for players to wear too that would disappear if they logged out, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's awesome for your corpse runs that everyone's been talking about recently.
Mm-hmm.
We have no gear, but I have this summoned baton. Thanks, Summoner.
Let's do this.
And then the last one here is armor. So you can summon armor specifically designed for your Archmentals. So what's interesting is both of those are designed for your Archmentals, which is weird. So you can put armor on your Archmentals. So you were a big EQ player, and I'm sure you saw multiple times when people were camping for the FBSS and they had a pet and the yak dropped and they didn't need it. They threw it on the pet. Right. So I'm wondering if, since you can summon armor to put onto them, can you also put regular armor on them? Because that's
an interesting question. That'd be really cool.
And it says here, these will both grow in power as you grow in power. So, it self-gates you. I'm very curious to see if you can put actual items on them, because you could do that for Necromancer pets, and I think you could do that with all the pets in EverQuest, right?
Yep.
Okay, so let's jump into other featured abilities. First one's Mana Shield. So essentially, you're able to summon a brief barrier of mana that will keep magic-based attack from landing on you if timed correctly. That's a different type of Mana Shield. Usually you hear Mana Shield, and it's a shield that goes on you, and instead of taking damage, you take mana loss. This is actually a momentary shield that's like made for being very precise with dodging and attacks. That's pretty neat. Phase, you create a summoning portal and slip inside briefly. When you emerge, the phase anomaly will have stripped you of all harmful effects.
Strong magics right there.
All harmful and beneficiary effects.
Yeah.
But that's cool. I mean, beneficiary effects are amazing, but sometimes having one really bad one on you is way worse than not having any buffs. So, escape portal. While this portal is active, you gain the ability... your group will be transported through the portal to the location it was placed. So
a little group teleporter beacon thing, yeah.
Yeah, sort of like, I'd imagine it's going to be similar to like a Warlock portal for your whole group. Summon food and drink, which is going to be interesting because food and drink, from what I've read, and someone is more than welcome to correct me in our comments here, that you're not going to need food and drink like you did in EQ. So I'm wondering if this is going to play more to the WoW style to just help with mana regen. I'm very interested to see that. Acclimation. You're able to summon various supplies that will aid other players in acclimating to extreme climates. So that's...
Summon wool sweater.
That's pretty powerful when we talk about needing certain items to get into certain areas, or if a summoner can really help you out. It's very interesting. Yep. This one's cool. I saw this before and I was just like, I can't imagine. I hope it's like a big yellow blow up raft. Like nothing would
Like,
make me
yeah.
happier, right? Summon a raft for you and your group to sail on. You know, you could just give them water walking, but hell, it's a summoner.
No,
Let's summon a big damn raft for everybody to ride on. I love it. I just the first time I see this with a raid, a full size raid on a raft. Oh,
It's like coming up to a boss all slow.
that screenshot is probably going to be on my desktop for ages once that finally occurs, because it's going to happen. Summon a ladder. So we've seen a couple different. Well, we haven't. The rogue we know can throw a rope. So we have 2 different classes that are capable of summoning a way to get up somewhere. You know what's going to be cool about that? How many people are going to find exploits?
Oh, stupid places and yep.
And I know VR is like, whoa, that's not cool, but we've seen some really fun stuff with that. So until it gets nerfed, we could probably see some really cool things there. Summon a wall of wood. Summon a wall of wood to protect you and your allies. There is no other way around the wall. Your enemies will attack the wall.
Forget shield wall warriors.
We're not going anymore. All my warriors out there, we might not have to be that class. We may have to rethink. That's interesting though, because that's really cool. So imagine you're fighting in an area where you're afraid of pets, and you're trying to really break it, and you finally get one, but you know another pet group's coming, so you pull the one in and you throw that wall up in a hallway, and it gives you X amount of time for them to break that wall. Or I wonder if it'll aggro them. That's going to be interesting. If you're behind that wall, will they just start attacking that wall, or is that going to...
Yeah, if they're non-aggro, would they just path through it? Because, interesting.
Or will they just stop? So it'll be interesting. I'd imagine that they're going to attack it, but that'll give you some time, and that kind of thing can be huge on a trying to take over a camp or something where you're delayed and it starts to have a respawn. That's a really neat mechanic, and I think that so far that's probably my favorite spell, as funny as that sounds. Summon a wall of wood. Summon creature. You summon a random hostile creature from somewhere within Terminus, which must be charmed by an enchanter to be utilized in combat. The type and level of the summoned creature is governed by your level. Creatures summoned in this way do not provide experience when killed. So that's
exactly where my mind went. I was like, can I just sit somewhere and summon these and kill them and level up? Then no.
Could you imagine? Like that was exploit 101 if that wasn't in there. So the amount of fun. So anybody who's ever, not taken MMOs too seriously, and you have had a drunken raid night or just some shenanigans. God, if I was playing a summoner and I had too much to drink, and I was just summoning random creatures, and it's just crazy things from all over the world. That is that spell should just be called Summon a Good Time. So, I like that. I do like that a lot. It's good flavor. While I'm joking about it, we talked about the pets having some synergy. This class from day one, I remember having a lot of synergy with enchanters. So there's one that's really cool. Imagine you do summon a really cool enemy with some really cool powers, and then boom, enchanter takes it, and you're using that, and that's really cool. Summon Behemoth. Summoners can evolve their summon creature into a summon Behemoth, allowing them to conjure various creatures of great might. These creatures are hostile and must be dire charmed by an enchanter to be usable in combat. So, here's what I don't like about these. So I do like synergy, but there's something I don't like. I think that once it's, I don't know how you'd pull this off, but once it's charmed, the summoner should control it. And having the enchanter control this, depending on how much work the summoner's doing already with CCing and everything else they're doing, there's an awkwardness there that I don't like. If there was a way for the summon to happen, or the summon happens, the charm happens, and then the summoner has control, awesome. Totally cool, that's their job. But if this becomes now the enchanter has to play along, I'm not a big fan of that. And as an enchanter, as cool as it is, I don't know that I would want to always have to do that. So
is the hassle worth it? Yeah.
And it probably is. That's probably a strong enemy, but I like there's a lot I like and there's a lot I don't like. Weaponize Object. Summon an object from around the environment and drop it or hurl it on your enemy. It's cool. Shield of Spinning Blades. Summon in a group of bladed weapons. Set them spinning in a circle around your ally. So damage shield around your ally. Which is pretty cool.
I like the flavor of that damage shield instead of just being called, damage shield _
Yeah. Summon damage shield. Mana Bomb. Bind a mana ghost to your target. Overload it with energy, making it unstable. After X seconds, it will detonate and splash. So that's essentially the Halo sticky bomb. With a ghost.
Nice.
Mana Boomerang. I have not yet read this ability, but by the name of this skill, I like it. You propel a blade of mana forward and then summon it back to you. It damages all enemies it comes in contact with. Additionally, it will restore a portion of your mana based on the damage it deals. Very cool. Glacier
Make
Shard.
an AoE thing. Maybe not, but
I mean, I don't think it's going to be a ton of AoE, but I'm sure that there's going to be fights where there's very weak, or as I like to call them, cheap mobs. Where there's a bunch of cheapies. Where maybe that's where you're using something like that and hitting a bunch of enemies that are weaker mobs. So that's pretty cool. Glacier Shard. Summon a torn shard of glacial ice to hurl at your enemy, dealing cold and physical damage. The longer you charge, so it's one of those charge abilities. It costs more mana and deals more damage. So that's pretty cool. Avalanche. Summon a mountain avalanche to bury all your enemies. The longer you charge this ability before releasing, so another charge ability. Bladed missiles. Conjure a swarm of bladed weapons and launch them at your enemy. And reciprocation. After being struck by a magical attack, you open a portal near your enemy and redirect the same energy back at them. It's not full damage, it'll be X%, but very cool flavor. So that's your summoner. We talked about wizard. We're not going to do a direct wizard to summoner comparison video. But if you were to just do a quick little comparison, where is your head at between wizard and summoner right now?
I prefer the wizard, hands down. It's just such a cool, boom, magic. This guy's it's magic and things are dying, but it's very roundabout in its magic use to fight things.
Yeah. So for me, the classes that I haven't enjoyed so much, I've really have enjoyed the amount of thought that's gone into class lore. So I wasn't a fan of the druid, but their abilities are so druid. It's just really cool. The weather effects, the bridge you can summon of foliage and stuff. The flavor of classes in this game are incredible, even if I'm not a big fan of them. And they did the same thing with this class. This class is looking really cool. 2 pets, very cool. Summoning different things into the environment, very cool.
Wall of wood.
Yeah, Wall of Wood, sick. It's probably the coolest thing they have. So they have this ability to, summon up something to deal with almost every thing you're going to come across. And that's really cool. The flavor of the class is awesome. It's better than a majority of pet classes that I've seen. I honestly, though, it would take me a lot to play this class. It's great for soloers. It'll probably be the farming class. I don't know. It doesn't resonate with me. It's done well. It's not VR's fault. It's my own thing here, but the wizard is so much cooler. It's so much more refined. This class feels like back in the day when you played a hybrid class, and since you had so much, you were kind of weaker. You had more, but you weren't. You kind of suffered for it, and
yeah, you had so much that it was all kind of toned down.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if that's going to be this class, because otherwise it's going to be super overpowered. It's going to be a very big balancing act on the summoner to see how it can function, be in line with others, but still be it's not going to pull as much damage as a wizard. I just can't see it happening. It's going to have a little more utility than a wizard. So I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the summoner class. If I'm going to be honest, I'd say this is probably my least favorite of the classes that we've read so far. Very cool. Flavor of it's awesome. If you're someone who loves summoners, you're going to love this class. But it's probably bottom of the barrel for me so far. Sorry, summoner fans.
Pitchfork.
Yeah, put your pitchforks down. I'm allowed to not like a couple things. Okay, Hayah, anything else that you want to add about this class before we wrap it up?
Nope. I do really like the art that they have at the top of the page. I think that's a perfect description of what this is in a visual.
Yeah.
But as far as adding some more, no, we covered it all.
Yeah. And this you have to be a gnome. Come on, guys. If I see summoners out there, I want to see gnomes. They're perfect for this. Their whole freaking body's summoned. So, okay. So, real quick, a couple news and notes pieces. This upcoming Tuesday, which will be March 5th. Yeah, March 5th, 9 p.m. We are going to do a premiere on YouTube. And no, it's not because we think we're amazing and we deserve this grand carpet rollout. We really like to chat with everybody while this type of thing rolls out. We have some exciting news to mention. So we're going to roll out our first episode of interviews with Minus. And my first interview is going to be with Basgrim. It's the first time I got to work with him, so it's really cool. And then afterwards, we're going to go live for a very short period of time. And we're going to announce a new feature on PantheonPlus that I think people will really enjoy. We are really excited to mention it. We'll also mention some small updates that have occurred to the site if you haven't seen them. So if you don't have a membership yet to Pantheon Plus, it's 100% free. You might want to save yourself some time if you want to see what this new feature is about, because you'll have to be a member. So small teaser there. Other than that, guys, thank you. We're starting to get towards the end of our class videos. And we'll have a lot more content coming after that. We'll get some opinion pieces out on different topics that the world's talking about out there. But I hope you guys enjoyed the summoner video. Leave comments below. Let us know what you think. Trash me for not liking this class. I know the summoners are coming with their summoned weapons in hand. Throw them at me so they can keep summoning more. So thank you guys. That's everything for us tonight. And we'll talk to you next week with the Rainbow.